Welcome to The Introvert Sisters, the podcast by introverts for introverts, hosted by Sharon and Lisa, two INFJs with a lot to say.
Hi, I'm Sharon.
And I'm Lisa.
And together,
we're the Introvert
Sisters.
And we didn't do it together.
No, I know we didn't. We didn't.
I miss those couple of episodes where we were actually able to say it together. So now we're apart again. We'll have to cancel that.
We will, because it doesn't really work. But that's fine. Yeah. And for all of those who have missed our videos, we're back. Here we are. As you see, we're trying something new with our little customized background there. We'll be tweaking that over the next few episodes. And so there will be
thanks for creating that.
Yeah, you're welcome. There will be a couple more non-video episodes coming up, but now that we're starting back our recording schedule, you can expect more videos from us. So let us skip introverts uniting separately. Right, sis? And what are we going to do?
Yes, we are going to jump straight into Meghan and Harry and what that I think we're all still in that space of what happened, the interview, the revelations, all the tea that was spilled, like, whoa.
Yeah.
Child, let's jump in. So okay, my question to you is, did you have any expectations? I mean, of course, there was a PR marketing build up to it beforehand. Yeah. Did you have expectations about the interview?
I don't know if I had expectations so much. Funnily enough, all the negative PR that was coming out ahead of it made me more interested in the interview than I might have been otherwise.
Yeah.
So it probably had the opposite.
So that backfired.
Yeah, it had the opposite effect of what was intended, because I thought to myself, well, clearly there's going to be a lot of stuff coming out that they don't want to come out. I mean, I expected to hear that it had been difficult, that there had been some racism. I didn't expect everything that came out, but I had some expectations. What about you? What did you think beforehand?
I was kind of interested and but it wasn't like, initially for me it wasn't even necessarily appointment TV, and then I was like, oh no, this could actually be quite interesting. And so somebody actually reminded me, I hadn't even remembered initially when it was on, and somebody reminded me, oh, do you remember you were kind of interested? And I was like, oh yeah. So I switched on casually, and then I was like,
glued, right?
Glued, jaw dropped. Sorry, I know I'm making all these non-verbal expressions, but that's where I was.
Part of my problem as well was that I couldn't see it the day it was aired. So I had to really do a self-imposed media embargo. I was trying so hard not to see anything until after I had seen it, which was the next day, right?
Yeah.
And then I knew I wanted to write about it too. So I still couldn't look at anything until after I had written. And so that was really, really hard because it was everywhere.
It was everywhere. Like it was, I mean, it would have been really tough to avoid, to be honest. And so I was expecting, I don't know, just something lighter and but I'm sorry.
Well, I mean,
they went
deep. Some long-standing and deeply painful issues were discussed.
I mean, they went into racism, which again, after the fact, you're like, okay, yeah, they kind of had to discuss racism.
Yeah.
But I don't know that I was necessarily expecting
the
amount of discussion about racism that took place.
No, because there's a way in which Meghan, being who she is and looking the way she does, one might think that to a certain extent, she had been inured from some of the worst of racism. And maybe she had until she got in the royal family.
Maybe she had. Maybe she was living that post-racial life. You know, the mythical post-racial life that
Until the
everybody
royal
talks
family
about.
came and said, no, it's the one drop rule in here.
Exactly.
Right?
Commonwealth forever. Right. So racism, misogynoir, bullying, exclusion, narcissistic abuse. I mean, and what was shocking for me, I think basically for everybody, was the mental health aspect
Yes.
that came up. And not just, okay, you know, depression is never, obviously it's not, you know, a positive, lovely, happy topic to discuss. But I might have expected, okay, some depression, but when she went into suicidal ideation, I actually was a little shocked. That more than anything.
And here's your trigger warning.
Touched me. So that's trigger warning for anybody that's listening. We will be discussing that somewhat because that was a part of the interview. And so, all right. So, as we would say in the Caribbean, there we go. Let's get started.
And so, you know, the whole thing, you know, in a nutshell is no matter how, shall we call it, you rise as a person of color, racism is still going to be there. It's still a factor. The system is still going to strip you down. So let's go.
Let's go. Okay. So let's start with my big confusion is why are people shocked, right?
Yeah.
That the royals are racist. I don't understand that. I don't understand how you can be shocked. How can you be shocked?
Aren't they the original colonizers?
They are the original colonizers.
You know,
right?
like every other royal family in Europe. I mean, they all went out and they all claimed territory that people were living in pretty happily. They all brought genocide in their wake. They all, you know, many of them brought enslavement in their wake. So why are we surprised that they are racist?
That they're racist. I mean, you know, the royals that are the British royals, you know, these are the descendants of the family that colonized over 25% of the world's landmass at some point, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, they're going to be racist. And I think we get fooled because, you know, we look at I watched the wedding.
Yeah.
Right. The Prince Harry, you know, Harry and Meghan wedding, and we watched it together. I think I was there at the time, right?
And
watched it together, and I teared up, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's so beautiful, and you know, and they have a black choir, and you know, I sort of allowed myself for a moment to relax, you know,
and forget about the racist world that we live in.
Yeah, but yeah, they're racist. I mean, are you shocked that people are shocked as well?
I'm shocked that people are shocked. I am shocked that people are shocked. You know, and we will deal with this again later when we come on to the reaction, which is probably going to be another episode. So people, just so you know, there's too much tea for us to cover it in one. There will be two.
It's a two cups of tea kind of episode. We're like, do you want another cup?
Yes. Do we have enough teacups in the world for all the tea that was spilled? We may not.
No.
We may not. Okay, so let us talk. And I want to talk about this because the privilege of Meghan's skin tone. So she was deemed to be acceptably black because she's so light skinned. And we have talked before about light skin privilege, about colorism within the black community, right? Which actually results in some people not really seeing her as black. And maybe, you know, and
a lot of black people don't see her as black.
Right. And she identifies as biracial, justifiably so, rightly
Which
so,
is fine.
no problem with that.
Yes.
But, you know, because she can actually pass for white in many circles outside the royal family.
I mean, right. I don't know about you, but I was, you know, of course, you know, this interview takes place. You start looking at Meghan and thinking about things and people that you've met. And I thought about two things. First of all, she is darker than a lot of people in Barbados that claim that they're white, but we're just going to drop that one there. That could be another, y'all are black.
Yeah.
Okay.
You mean she's lighter?
We let you skate on by.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And also, I remember when I lived in the south of France, which you did as well for a
Yes.
while. We both did.
Oh, yes.
And I remember meeting people that I could tell would, if they were checking a box, they'd check white. I would probably, if I were
Yes.
checking a box on their behalf,
Yes.
I would probably check white. But I swear to you, because it's warm and
Yeah.
kind of sunny down there, and some of them were close to my color. And this is no exaggeration.
Yeah.
Some of them were darker. Some of them were darker than our mother.
There are people
Yeah.
out there passing for white who can't go out in the sun. That's all I'm gonna say. They can't go out in the sun, otherwise the illusion is gone. Anyway,
Gone.
it's not like Meghan herself has ever tried to pass. It's just that she could pass, right? She is always identified as biracial, as far as I know. But I think she was a bit naive. Well, because of that, I believe that she was a celebrity. She was very pale skinned, and she has never had to deal with some of the struggles that her darker skinned sisters have had to deal with. As I think you put it, she never had to lead with her blackness as so many of us do when we go out in the world. So
she didn't have to put that armor on.
She didn't know about those issues. She hadn't been rejected because of her skin color until she got in there. And all of a sudden.
And yes, all of a sudden she was, persona non grata. But, I think that because she was so light, that's what even allowed it to get as far as it did,
Yes.
Had it been somebody of my skin tone or your skin tone, whatever, there was never going to be a royal wedding. Let's be honest. That was not going to happen.
I saw a really good tweet on this that said colorism is what got her into the royal family and racism is what took her back out again.
Amen. That's it.
I don't know who said it. I would love to be able to credit them. If you're listening and you said it, let us know. We will credit you properly. But I thought that really encapsulated it.
That was it. That is absolutely the point, is that, because I think that initially, I feel like if a lot of the Brits and even the royal family kept thinking, it's sort of like when, Trump was running for president.
Yeah.
Right? And they're like, oh, there's no way it'll ever happen. Oh my gosh, it happened. And I feel like if there was a little bit of that going on with Meghan,
yes,
in England, like, oh my gosh, it'll never happen. He'll never bring a Negro, into the palace.
Oh, well, at least she's light, kind of thing.
At least she's light. Yeah.
So she, I don't think she'd ever experienced rejection because of her skin color, basically. Right.
Yeah.
But then that
must have been a rude awakening for her.
Yes. That brings us to the concerns about Archie's skin tone. So go, sis.
Look, admittedly, it was an epic TV moment, because we did not know, again, as we said at the top of the episode, we didn't know they were going that deep, right?
No.
And so they went that deep. And when we heard that there were, someone in the royal family, more than one person potentially, was concerned that his skin, basically, he might come out too brown or too black, right? And so it was initially shocking. But again, the British Empire was founded on a belief in the God-given supremacy of the white race over all other races, right? That's what it was founded upon. And, and so they went and they colonized territories that were primarily, or I think probably in totality, populated by Black and brown people, right? The British Empire was founded on, the enslavement and expropriation and genocide and subjugation of brown-skinned people.
Yes.
So they're gonna have concerns. They're gonna have some concerns that people that they think of as inferior are now a part of their bloodline.
Exactly. And for me, that it reminded me that people had asked that question of me when I was in England. I can't remember who they were. But it's like, and people felt free to speculate.
Yeah, and for those of you who aren't aware, Sharon is married to a white British man, obviously their daughter is biracial. So that's what she's referring to when she says people would ask her. That's what they would ask her about.
Yes. And as someone said in a conversation I was having yesterday, it's not that you might not privately think about this yourself, because, we have a variety of possible shades and outcomes. But, but for somebody else to express that, who's not in your family, and express that as a concern, if you see the concern is what bites.
The concern is what bites, because it suggests, it is swimming, steeped in racism.
Yeah.
And, you're concerned, you're only concerned if you think it is being Black or having Black blood is a deficit and a negative.
Exactly.
That's the only reason why you're concerned.
Exactly. So if you're expressing that concern, that's racism.
Yeah, okay.
Because it means that you buy into that narrative.
Yeah. Speaking of which, so what do you think about Archie's birthright, and that all of a sudden, coincidentally, he's the first child that would have been a prince that has been denied that?
Okay, let me put that into context. They changed it some time back, so that given Harry's position in line to the throne, that his children wouldn't automatically have it now. But when Charles becomes king, it would be automatic for Archie to have it. So I find it very suspicious that all of a sudden they're saying, oh no, because another thing that came out, and I can't remember where it was. I can't even guarantee that we're going to find it and link to it. Sorry, people. There's so much. I don't know if I ever find it again. But another thing that came out was that a couple of the other grandchildren that would not have been entitled were actually, it was written in so that they could have the title. So therefore, I feel like, there's a clear dichotomy, right, between how those people are treated. So
by dichotomy, we mean example of racism.
Yes. Okay. It's a clear example of racism. Let's not mince our words.
Let's not mince our words. It's so funny because that's both our personalities right there. You're always you say what you have to say, but you try to tread tenderly and lightly, right? And I am a little bit more bulldozer like. Like, no, this is how it is. This is what it is. Let's just call a thing a thing.
Right. So let's come back.
Both approaches are valid. Yeah,
they are. Let's come back to the question of colorism, because we know, right? We have these conversations. Listen, I wrote a book about this, okay? And the reason I wrote a book about this, Exploring Shadism, available on Amazon. The reason I wrote a book about this is because it's because this happens in the Caribbean, particularly in Barbados, where we grew up, but it happens throughout the Caribbean, where and it's a legacy of the period of enslavement, because
Latin America,
and I know Latin America is another strong case. Yes. Anyway, let's not get sidetracked.
We need to write. We both need to write about that, because they've literally tried to essentially literally kill.
Yes.
Literally kill and breed out all Black people. But
yes.
That's
okay. So so color is currency, right? Color is currency, as I think you mentioned in your article. Lisa has written an excellent article on this, which you have to read, and we will drop the link to that in the show notes along with mine. Right. So
yours too, because yours just came out. Yeah.
See two different perspectives on that, right? And there are a number of phrases that Black and minoritized people have said or had said to them, such as "Hay que mejorar la raza." You have to improve the race.
Improve the race. Now, that in itself, the fact that the association with improvement is make it more white, lightening. That says it right there. That's the legacy of colonialism right there, right? And you see it in caste systems in India. Mm-hmm. You see it in China and Japan as well, I believe.
You
right?
see it in many places,
Yeah,
in the world.
where like there's this, you know, the lighter your skin is, the more prized you are, you
Yes,
know.
yes.
You know, the selling of lightening creams and
And
brightening creams and all of that.
we talked about
Yeah.
this also when we did our Indian matchmaking episode,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, there was a question of who was light enough to be considered acceptable. You know, people have said,
Yeah.
I can't marry them, they're too dark,
They're too
you know?
dark, you
Yes,
know,
you know?
or you know, they want they you know they oh my gosh, you know, it's a mixed couple. Oh, I
Yeah,
hope the baby gets the good hair. I hope the baby gets the light eyes. You know,
yes,
and so it's a thing. You know, colorism within the minoritized communities is huge, and I don't know if it's ever going away. Like, it's so embedded.
it is
It'll
totally,
take generations. It'll take
totally.
generations for it to go. Yeah.
Because I remember having conversations with young people at school now you know, when I launched the book. So this is just a
Mm-hmm.
couple of years ago. And they were
Mm-hmm.
saying, yeah, these things still ring true. These things are still happening
Yeah.
today, right?
Yeah.
You know, people
Yeah.
say she would be really pretty if she weren't so dark,
Yes.
right?
That
You
gets said a
know,
lot.
that gets said a lot. I've heard it myself.
Yeah.
You know, don't let the children play outside too long or they'll get dark,
Or they'll get
right?
dark. Like, if dark, like if it's this, I don't know, this,
It's a huge deficit. Like if it's a,
it's a
you
huge
know,
deficit to something to be rejected. It
exactly.
is,
It
you know,
doesn't
it
feel
is,
good. I have to say, it does not feel good.
no,
You know,
no.
so
To know that your skin color is seen as unworthy, as ugly, as just, you know, something to be rejected, as something to be shied away from,
yeah,
is, you know, it's hard. That's why a lot of, you know, people of color, they might not admit it, but, you know, have self-esteem issues,
yes,
because basically a large part of the planet thinks you're hideous. You're hideous, you're unworthy, and you know,
yes,
must be
and you know,
subjugated at all costs.
and marrying up was a real thing, right?
Yeah.
And marrying up, let's not mince our words, meant marrying someone lighter skinned. And
Yes. I mean, I
the lighter they were, the better.
listen, if I were doing, I would actually like to do a doctorate on this. Well, partially. I'm not doing
Yeah.
that. Doctorate is too much work. But yeah, but if I were to ever get back into academia, I would actually like to do a study on that, because, you know, when I look at even just photos of just regular people
Mhm.
in, you know, that we know,
Yeah.
right? Um, as well, you know, people in our family, people in our
Mhm.
circle, and then, you know, you widen that to, you know, celebrities and so on and so
Yeah.
forth, and it's like, it's a big deal. It's a big deal, you
It
know.
is. It is.
The They're literally, and I feel like if it is more darker skinned men going for lighter skinned women, could be wrong, right?
Who knows?
But, you know,
Who knows?
just look at look at a lot of modern advertising when they're trying to, you know, check their diversity box, right?
The children
And
are
usually
biracial.
what they do, they get a dark skinned black man,
Yes.
right? And then everybody else is biracial,
Yes.
and light biracial.
That's very interesting. And, you know, I think that's still colonial legacy. I mean, yes, preference comes into it too. And I mean, you know, um, who
Look,
knows?
there's a spectrum. I mean, some of it is, you know, genuine preference. Some of it is, okay, you just meet who you meet, you love who you
Yeah.
love, right? I'm all for that.
But
But
the light is right. The light is right view is something, it's a legacy of colonialism that we actively perpetuate, and it's time for it to stop, honestly.
yeah, it has to. It has to, because it's a sickness, actually, I think. You know, colorism, I mean.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so back to Meghan. I don't know we're ever going to be able to finish this.
No, we'll keep going.
There's
We'll
so
keep
much to
going.
talk about.
There's so much.
There's so much to talk about. But okay, I wanted to talk about Black excellence and why it was simultaneously Meghan's saving grace, and sort of what basically made her kind of like shoot herself in the foot, you know.
Mhm.
I feel like no matter how she showed up, um, you know, the firm and the masses would not have been happy, right?
No.
I remember she shared that she hadn't, like, quite, again, because of her skin color privilege, she's a light-skinned white passing rich celebrity,
Yes.
So she got into a lot of circles and she was always the lead, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so she didn't initially, and she just thought of the royals as other celebrities, not realizing,
Yeah.
who they really are. And so when she was going to meet, Grammy Liz, right? When she was going to meet Queen Elizabeth, and Harry said, "Oh, by the way, can you curtsy?" And she was like, "Why?" She's like, "She's the queen. You're going to have to curtsy." Right? And she said, "Okay, fine."
Yes. No, that was a great moment. Isn't this your grandmother? Harry said, but she's the queen.
Yeah. And it's interesting to hear him have to separate the two.
Yes.
That's a whole nother topic.
That's a whole other topic.
Topic. But yes, but she nailed, okay, so fine. Within a couple of minutes, right? She practiced, she nailed the first curtsy, right? Queen loved her. And then over the course of the relationship, right, which is now 100% in the public eye, and very, very high stakes, right? She nailed, the etiquette and the comportment and, the fashion, right? The national anthem. That was our national anthem.
Yeah, the public
she said that she had to Google it and learn it.
Yeah, the public speaking probably wasn't a stretch, as she has been used to being interviewed. The Australia tour.
Yes.
Right, and the connection with the people of the Commonwealth. Right, she knew she had to be perfection, and she was perfection. And they hated her for it.
They hated her for it.
Every black woman in the world can relate to this.
Can relate to that, because not only had, I won't use the actual N word, but I know this is what they were thinking. This little Negro girl had come and stolen their prince.
Yeah.
Probably worked some kind of black magic on him, right? to get him to marry her, because it couldn't actually be love, right?
Yeah.
And then had the audacity to be excellent. No. Because they wanted her to go in and fail.
Yes, but let us say that only part of that is racism. But I think Diana had the same experience several decades ago, because people loved her, and she was the only person in that royal family that people could relate to. And there was a lot of jealousy because of it. So, first of all, as a woman, to exceed people's expectations, and then as a black, a biracial woman, but black in their eyes, right?
Black in their eyes.
That's the whole intersectionality of it all, right? It's it's like two strikes already.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If she had failed, then that would have enabled them to push one narrative, but she was successful and hated for it. And, we've all experienced that. We've all experienced that, that feeling of excelling, knowing that you have done a good job, thinking that this is, something good, and then having someone shrug it off, brush it off, and resent you for it, which I think is basically what happened there.
Yeah, I mean, it's why it's you have 2 master's degrees, right? I have 1, right?
Yeah.
And there are hundreds, thousands, millions of white women that basically with a high school diploma and a smile will get hired to do the same thing that people will require us to have our master's degrees for.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. Absolutely.
That's how we have to show up. We have to show up, armed to the teeth with diplomas out the wazoo and degrees out the wazoo and 20 years experience.
And still you get no respect.
And Becky can show up and flip her hair with nothing, and it's like, okay, that's fine, we like you, you're one of us, we welcome you in, and then if with all of, like you said, that's why we relate, because we have lived it.
Exactly.
Right? And you go in, you excel, and then they start the campaign to tear you down.
Yes. And I think that
all been there.
Yes, albeit on a big world stage. That's exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened there.
I think that's why this is also relatable, because we're like, oh my gosh.
Because it's like on one level, we have nothing in common with Meghan, because, we're not white passing, we're not celebrities, we're not rich, any of those things.
We're not married to Harry.
Well, yeah, all of those things. But on another level, the treatment that was meted out to her is the same treatment that Black women get all the time. And we can totally relate. And I think every Black woman can relate.
Yeah,
because
yeah.
we have
We've all been there. We've all
lived it.
experienced it.
We have lived
It
it.
is part of our lived experience.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
and speaking of that, another thing that stood out to me was Darvo.
Yes.
Oh, Darvo is deny, attack, reverse, victim, and offender, right? And from my perspective, what came out to me was that this whole sordid, relationship and interaction between the firm and Meghan and Harry sounded to me like a narcissistic relationship setup.
Right.
And as a part of that, right, what narcissists do is once they start getting called out on their behavior, right, then they launch into a Darvo
exactly.
a Darvo
And
scheme.
if you've ever been in a relationship with someone like that, you know exactly how it goes. Everything looks swimming at the beginning, and all of a sudden you are the bad guy for just being
You
the
are the
same
bad
person
guy.
that you were, right?
Yeah, they love you, love you, and this day that we're speaking about in this particular scenario is the firm, the
The
institution,
firm, the
whatever you
institution,
want to
yes.
call it, right? So they love you and welcome you in, right? But bear in mind, all the while they're doing that, they are planning to chew you up and spit you out.
Yes.
They are planning that. So the love and the appearance of accepting, about how they appear to accept her was never real, right? They're like, oh, this is a Negro girl got in here. Okay, we'll show her.
Yes, and it's
That was the
very
plan all along.
interesting. It's very interesting also that Prince Andrew's alleged pedophilia has not resulted in any of those same kinds of reports. Okay,
No,
you
no. I
know,
mean,
but does it look to
they
you like racism, like being black is a worse crime than alleged pedophilia? Because that's how it
kind of
looks to me.
looks. That's how it looks. I mean, the UK tabloids launched a pre-interview smear campaign against Meghan,
Yes,
right?
yes,
Which
exactly.
that's what kind of started to pique my interest. I was like, wow, like what? Why? I mean, why are you
Why are they so
reporting it? Like
upset?
it hasn't even happened.
Yeah,
It hasn't happened.
exactly.
Like report on it after it happens.
Yeah.
And that kind of clued me like, oh wow, they are trying to control the narrative and basically tarnish her reputation in advance to make her less believable and less likable,
Yes,
and
exactly.
when Meghan dropped Meghan dropped a lot of subtle little drops of tea, one of which was that the firm hosts an annual Christmas party for the tabloids.
That was very interesting to me.
And I was
Very,
like, that
very
is
interesting.
telling.
Very, very telling. Very, very telling.
Right. And yeah, so you understand why she felt so blindsided, because of course they appeared to welcome her initially, and then they turned on her like, rabid, very rich rabid animals, right? And ripped her apart, and so she was not prepared for that, right?
No, no.
And then another thing was Harry talking about it, basically being cut off, right? Now this is another part of a narcissistic relationship breakup. Like there are certain aspects of it that occur basically across the board. Financial abuse is one of them, right? And so that's why I keep saying this is what this sounds like, this whole narcissistic relationship between the firm, the institution, and Meghan and Harry, because they cut him off thinking that, okay, we're going to this is how we can control him. He'll come back into the fold, he'll leave the Negro,
Yes.
and come back to the fold.
Yes.
And be white again.
Yes. I mean, it was just, it's almost hard to believe, but as you say, the behavior is identical. You can't, you think about Duke and Duchess and you don't think about financial abuse, but anybody who has been in that kind of relationship recognizes the behavior, right? They know how you start with approval, to entrap you, then they separate you from your identity and your loved ones. They take more control of your life. I mean, I don't know.
And remember, do you remember when Meghan said that her passport and keys were taken?
Yes, that was kind of weird.
Right? Well, okay.
I don't know if
here's the
that's a
thing.
security thing. I don't know if it's that's a security. It's hard for me to tell, but it's very odd. From the outside.
Okay, I think that part of what that was okay, she's a princess. She doesn't, she has people now. She doesn't need to book her own tickets, and I get that. So that's the most positive framing that you could put around it, right? But if she's requesting her passport, right? If she's like, oh, I want to go to XYZ place, and it is not being released to her, that is something different. Now, me personally, I know, and I dropped this in my article, and because the article is mostly, of course, about Meghan and Harry, but I wanted to drop a couple of gems of my own and show people that these are things that actually happen to real people.
Exactly.
I have had that happen to me.
Exactly.
I have had my passport taken, and people ask, well, how can that happen? And people that think this way are very cunning.
Yes.
Right. You think that you're having one conversation, they're having a whole nother conversation.
Exactly.
So, you and your person, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are, unpacking whatever, and they say, oh, I'm just going to put the passports over here, keep them together.
Yeah.
Right?
And then next thing you don't see it again.
Next thing you don't see it again. You have no idea where it is. And, you ask for it, right? By which time you've already been, separated from your family, separated from your loved ones, have no support system. And there you are. So on a, it happens on a micro scale, it happens on a world stage scale. It just, that's just how it is.
All right.
So I know we have to wrap up.
We do have to wrap up, but we're going to come right back with another episode.
Yes, this might have to be 3.
It may well end up being 3. We're going to see how it goes, but we will be back to discuss more of when Meghan and Harry met Oprah. All right.
Yes.
Thank you for listening to the Introvert Sisters, and we will see you next time.
Thanks, guys.
You've been listening to the Introvert Sisters. Loved what you heard? You can catch all our episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, and all other major platforms. Subscribe, rate, and write a review. Find us online at theintrovertsisters.com and follow us on Instagram and Facebook at The Introvert Sisters. See you next time. Peace.